In a statement after the Apex Court's ruling, the People's Democratic Party commended the Supreme Court for upholding the principle of supremacy of the political party in the management of its internal affairs. In the statement by its National Publicity Secretary, Ologbondiyan, the party describes the judgment as victory for democracy, emphasizing that it reaffirms the standing position of the party and emphatically settles the emergence of Udeh-Okoye as the substantive national secretary of the PDP, having been duly nominated, endorsed and ratified through the internal mechanism of the party's statutory organs and bodies in line with provision of the PDP's constitution. Ologbondiyan recalled that the National Working Committee had at its 576th meeting held in 2023 directed the Southeast Zonal Executive Committee to nominate a replacement for Anyanwu upon his nomination then as the party's governorship candidate in Imo State.
Right, we're joined now by former National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, Ologbondiyan, and at our overflow studio is lawyer and ARISE analyst Frank Tietie. I'm tempted really to start with Frank Tietie since he's a lawyer, but I mean, Ologbondiyan, you are a former spokesman of the party, so it's only fitting that I start with you. Thanks, both of you gentlemen, by the way, for joining us on Newsnight. Let me start with you, Ologbondiyan. It seems the Supreme Court has reaffirmed the supremacy of the political party. The Supreme Court said, go back, you decide within your party who the national secretary is or any other position for that matter. Are you satisfied with the decision of the Supreme Court, considering again that all sides are still interpreting as it suits them? Ologbondiyan.
Thank you very much, Ngozi, and Happy New Year to you. And this was Happy New Year in March.
It's an old New Year.
Yeah, I think I agree with the position of the party as expressed by the National Public Secretary, by Ologbondiyan, who is the official spokesperson of the party, and from whom we can understand the direction of the party. Yes, there are contestations over the judgment of the Supreme Court. But Ngozi, we must get something very, very clearly. Right. The Supreme Court has helped the People's Democratic Party. It has stopped the idea, the concept of people going to hide under the court and warehousing issues that the party can resolve on its own. And I think that is commendable on the side of the Supreme Court. And if you look at the party, whether the Board of Trustees, whether the National Working Committee, whether the Governors Forum, every organ of the party has already endorsed Udeh-Okoye as the substantive National Publicity Secretary, substantive National Secretary of the party. And so I believe that that position is okay with the party, and the party has aligned herself with the decision of the Supreme Court.
Interesting. Frank Tietie, good evening and thank you for joining us. When the Supreme Court speaks, it should be final. And one would think that should put to rest all of this argument. But instead of that, we are seeing different interpretation. Two men are still laying claim to the seat. One backed by the National Working Committee of the party, that's Udeh-Okoye, in their statement. And then there's another who was in court today, Samuel Anyanwu. But you are the lawyer. What did the Supreme Court really say today? Did it explicitly put in charge of the PDP's national secretary any of these two individuals?
Well, thank you very much. They attempted to tempt the Supreme Court into taking sides, which the Supreme Court did not do. In fact, the Supreme Court dodged it by doing the right thing. And I don't also think that it's in the place of anybody to either commend or condemn the Supreme Court. When the Supreme Court states the position of the law, that is what it is, and we take it that way. In this case, we have two parties that are yet to wake up to smell the coffee, that the Supreme Court is saying that go back and deal with your issues internally. Exhaust the internal conflict.
I hate to interrupt you, but we seem to have a problem with your audio. Yeah. Some background noise. Let's fix that quickly so we can get the best of this conversation. Stay with us, viewers. We'll be right back with more.
Right, thanks for staying with us. You're still watching Newsnight. Adesua, you asked Frank Tietie a question, and he was responding to your point.
Indeed, thank you so much, Ngozi. Frank Tietie, back to you. My question really was, who did the Supreme Court install or reinstall as the PDP National Secretary, because there are different interpretations and two men still lay claim to the seat?
The Supreme Court did not allow itself to be tempted to the point of deciding which person or which party of the contending parties is now the National Secretary of the PDP. The Supreme Court made a very profound pronouncement when it decided that these are political questions. Political questions are questions that the court would not want to inquire into, especially when, in this case, it decides that they are internal affairs. The PDP it's actually very painful and outrightly shameful, probably disgraceful, that the PDP that used to solve all of its internal problems with a sort of family affair, and then it became, a buzzword in the days past of, in the long past of our democratic process, is now bedeviled by its inability to resolve its own crisis, whereas its own constitution makes ample provisions for an appeal process from each organ of the party to the other that is immediately above it. The PDP is not running away from solving its problem, particularly its leaders. And the Supreme Court has made something quite very profound, and is sending a message to politicians that it must stop bringing the courts into unnecessary political questions that they are meant to resolve. In this case, nobody, whether it is Samuel Anyanwu or Udeh-Okoye, can really lay claim now. But the PDP must wake up and smell the coffee and realize that it has a very serious responsibility to show Nigerians that it's a party that can offer some form of governance by, first of all, governing itself. In this case, it should go back and decide for itself who its national secretary is, and not turn it to the Supreme Court and then give the Supreme Court a bad name. The Supreme Court actually dodged the bullet by in time past, when the Supreme Court takes a position, they will say, oh, they have been bribed. What an insult. Whoever. Nobody has a right to decide whether to commend the Supreme Court or condemn it, because we must operate as a civilized society. When the Supreme Court, the learned justices of the Supreme Court, make the pronouncement, it is because of their superior understanding of the issues, and we must learn from it. In this case, the Supreme Court has simply restated a time-tested principle of law, which is a principle of political questions. In a system of government that operates separation of powers, the judiciary cannot intervene in the internal affairs of another arm of government. In this case, this is an internal affair of a political party. It is an outright express purview of the politicians to resolve it themselves. The PDP has a challenge now to show Nigerians that it is a meaningful party, or else this disgrace will go on, making many governors who are actually very disgruntled by the decision of the Supreme Court to defect from the PDP, and then we might just be witnessing the disintegration of one of Africa's best and biggest party. It was the hope of democracy, and it's a shame that it's going down this way.
And I'm very sure Ologbondiyan will be very happy that you've described the party as the biggest and the greatest party in Africa. I mean, Ologbondiyan, you heard what Frank Tietie said there. Will the PDP seize the opportunity now to go back to the age-old, it's a family affair, philosophy of the PDP? Then again, the other questions raised here: which NWC will actually validate the national secretary of the PDP? Number one. And again, did the PDP at any time remove Sam Anyanwu? Exactly when was he removed, and when was Udeh-Okoye installed as a national secretary? Okay,
thank you very much. And thank you, Tietie, for your commendable approach. Although you say we should not thank the judiciary, but let me still thank you, although you can understand. But having said that, I think that for us in the People's Democratic Party, we had provided the solution as a party. I just listed that all the organs of the party, including the most prominent influential group of the party, which is the Governors Forum, had agreed, nominated, cleared Udeh-Okoye as the national secretary. And on account of that, he has been participating in meetings of the working committee.
Yeah, but my question is at what point was Udeh-Okoye installed?
I will get there.
And his
name had been sent to INEC in a letter by the acting national chairman of the party, Ilyas Udamagum. They sent the name of Udeh-Okoye to INEC. INEC has been issuing, Udeh-Okoye has been issuing correspondences on behalf of the party. And he's been participating in NWC and BOT meetings. So, as a party, the party has taken a decision, maybe like 2 or 3 months back, to formally accept Udeh-Okoye. And he has been functioning. But you know the challenge in the party, which Tietie also discussed now, also raised now, is the fact that instead of people accepting the mechanism within the party, which allows for reconciliation, they run and go and hide in the courts. For instance, the Maguma has been in the court for how many months saying that, oh, he cannot be removed. Anyanwu ran to the court too and said, oh, he cannot be removed. But the party said, it is time for you to go. So, and if you are a member of this party, and if you feel for Nigerians, if indeed you are in need for the reasons of Nigerians getting a better life, why won't you make sacrifices?
Why is the PDP not willing to wait until December 9 to make that decision as to who the rightful national secretary is?
You know, our constitution give us clearance on how we can best manage our party. You know the genesis of this matter concerning Udeh-Okoye was when Anyanwu went to run for governorship. And his zone, the Southeast zone, mandated by the working committee, has to bring up a replacement. It's normal. We do that always in the party. It's nothing strange. Even as a member of working committee under Prince Uche Secondus, we made replacements, provided the replacement is along the lines provided for in section 47(6) of the party's constitution. So, and in this case, in this present case of Anyanwu, that's what happened. Okay. And Anyanwu went and lost the election and said, no, there can't be a replacement. And the party has dragged from there.
All right. And that's the next line of question, Frank Tietie. Because at the bottom of this is one man seeking an elective position to become governor while clinging to a position in his political party as national secretary. And this is not just limited to Mr. Anyanwu in the PDP. We've seen it among politicians in Nigeria. Is there perhaps should we begin to look at the laws and the constitution, you know, how politicians try to grab and hold at the same time? Because bottom line, Anyanwu will tell you that, or Udeh-Okoye will tell you that an office must be vacant before a replacement can be made. But here's someone who wanted a position and still holding to another. What do you make of that?
Especially when the Supreme Court itself in time past had made decisions that were close to that, when certain persons who actually picked their nomination forms to run as president eventually came back and became senators, which is was supposed to be an aberration. The Supreme Court did take decisions on that. But in this case, the Supreme Court appears to have learned its lessons, not to get involved, and by now pushing the issue to the political party. Now, do you really think you need to be rocket scientists to decide some issues of justice? And that justiciable issue is now being pushed to the political party. You know, my respected elder brother Kola is saying that Udeh-Okoye is actually the substantive national secretary. Was it not Udeh-Okoye we saw in videos that was being chased out like a buffoon out of the PDP secretariat by the stronger force? And then you see, when you now say the issue of justice here, like I emphasized, the Supreme Court has now decided that PDP, decide for yourself what is just and fair. Whether a man who was your national secretary decided that he wanted to be governor of Imo State and literally resigned, went to run election, and then he kept one sort of reservation for him in a very peculiar manner. He comes back and he takes it back as your national secretary. If that is your law, it should be written down in your constitution that, yes, when you become a party executive, you can as well leverage on it and go and run for an elective position. PDP, is that what you're saying? The Supreme Court is asking you, decide, and Nigerians will accept it. Imagine the waste of precious national attention that the common national secretary of a political party will now dominate the precious time of the Nigerian Supreme Court, to the extent that we are now here leaving more important issues to decide this. When PDP, those people who have run this country for 60 years, cannot sit down on their own to decide? Come on. I mean, look, we should get serious in this country, and we should operate with some principle of fairness and appear as persons who can actually govern Africa's largest country, Africa's greatest hope, the hope of the black man. What is this? PDP is actually failing us, and I agree that the Supreme Court has given PDP an opportunity to redeem itself. But please, let us not hide the issues. The issue is about the soul of 2027. If you make the PDP weak, if you cause trouble in the PDP, there will be no credible opposition. Because right now, if Samuel Anyanwu eventually has his way, if he eventually have his way, I would say, the same, in the manner we saw Udeh-Okoye being chased out, kicked out of the PDP secretariat, then somebody will be benefiting. Who is that person benefiting from the crisis in the PDP? That is what we should be considering.
Very quickly.
Looks like Mr. Ologbondiyan praised Frank Tietie
too early. Okay, so very quickly, respond to the issues he raised there.
No, on the issues he raised, number one, there's no member of PDP that is a buffoon. So I want to clear that. And Udeh-Okoye cannot be accused of issues bordering on buffoonery. He went for a meeting.
He didn't accuse him of being a buffoon. He only said he was chased out like. Yeah.
Okay. So he went for a meeting. Unfortunately, he was waylaid by thugs. So the rest of what happened, I can clearly say, is now history. But I remember. Yeah,
but very quickly, was there an agreement that if Anyanwu lost the election, the Imo State governorship election, that he could come back and take back his position as national secretary?
I'm not aware of such agreement. If there was any agreement like that,
right,
the zone where he comes from, which is the southeast zone, would not have presented a replacement.
All right.
But having said that,
very quickly,
said that, I know that particular meeting that Tietie is referencing had to be held down until Udeh-Okoye was brought back to attend that meeting. So that clears that.
Okay, we have to leave it there. Ologbondiyan is former spokesman of the People's Democratic Party. Frank Tietie, ARISE Analyst and lawyer. Thank you, both of you, for joining us on Newsnight. Hopefully, PDP can resolve its internal affairs.
We'll surely resolve. Thank you.
Right.